The Bible is very forthright as regarding the creation of the earth and all that is upon the planet. Genesis chapter 1, verses 1 to 5. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. And so we have recorded there the first day of creation. But in the very first verse of the Bible, in the opening words, we have the challenge to all men and women, especially in our modern society. In the beginning, God created. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And we as Bible students believe wholeheartedly in these words that God did create. And when we get down to the fifth day of creation, verses 20 to 23 of Genesis chapter 1, we read of the birds and the various life forms of the sea coming into being. And so we read in verse 20, God said, "Let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. And God created great whales, and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And God saw that it was good, and God blessed them, saying, Be fruitful, and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let fowl multiply in the earth. And the evening and the morning were the fifth day." Now on the sixth day comes the creation of man. But for this particular talk, we're going to concentrate on one type of bird. And so coming back to these words describing the fifth day of creation, I just want to emphasize here in red, fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven, and also the phrase, every winged fowl after his kind. So we're going to be talking about fowl or birds that fly above the earth. And notice that every winged fowl after his kind is mentioned. So in other words, as far as the Bible is concerned, God created a particular type of bird which was able to reproduce a copy of itself, hence the phrase after his kind. It's not a case of it developing from generation to generation into a superior creature than the one that went before, but rather every bird was able to reproduce a carbon copy, as it were, of itself. Every winged fowl after his kind. And this is the bird we're going to concentrate upon now. The barn owl. Beautiful looking creature. And it is a widely distributed creature throughout the earth. Barn owl is found in all the continents of the earth other than the Antarctic. Find it in the Americas, in Africa, in Europe, Australasia, and in Asia. Very widespread. Sadly, in the United Kingdom and in the British Isles overall, we find the barn owl is struggling. If you look on the map there, you can see that in Ireland it's becoming increasingly more rare. The barn owl is losing its habitat and so is decreasing in numbers. We're going to look at some wonderful characteristics of this bird which I believe demonstrate that it was created, that it was designed, that it didn't come about through chance. And so we're going to look first at its toes. And you can see from the picture there how impressive they are. They have 4 toes, 3 of which face forward when the bird is in flight, and the uniquely flexible outer front toe on each foot can swivel round to face backwards when the bird is at rest. So it can have a 3x1 arrangement or 2x2. And so this gives it the ability not only to perch up, but also to grab and to handle its prey comfortably. And as you look at its toes, you can't help but notice the talons, which are very sharp. But the barn owl has what's called a pectinate claw. And this claw, if you look in the photograph there, has a comb-like serrated structure that runs along the inner talon edge of the third digit. So that comb-like serrated edge is very, very useful. And it's used in preening with special regard to that facial disc, which is so important to the bird. So the talons, so needful in taking the prey, but this particular structure found on the third digit is wonderfully designed to be able to preen that facial disc. Now, I don't believe that this has come about through happy circumstance, from one mutation to another, but rather, as it says in Genesis, the bird was created and it was able to reproduce after its kind. And so the first barn owl had this structure on its third digit, and then the one that it reproduced, and so on from generation to generation. Now we move on to the third aspect of this bird that I want us to consider. The rough grassland over which they usually hunt, wherever that may be, whether it's in Africa or whether it's in the United Kingdom or in South America, wherever it is where there's this rough grassland in which they hunt, predominantly that land is light brown for most of the year. So when viewed from above, the bird is well camouflaged. Beautiful coloration, but it's very sophisticated, as you can see from that photograph. The patterns there are quite intricate. Now the barn owl has a white underside, and the white underside works as an anti-silhouette strategy. When viewed from below, birds almost always appear as a dark silhouette. To counteract this, the best colour to be is white. And so although it's basically brown on top, tan coloured, underneath it's white. And so it's camouflaged in terms of the ground, but also for a creature looking up, there is this anti-silhouette strategy employed where the bird is successful because it is white underneath. Now, as you might expect, eyesight for a bird of prey is a very important feature. And a barn owl has eyes which, in very crude terms, are on average twice as light sensitive as human eyes. Their eyes are so much superior to ours. In near darkness, a barn owl has a brighter image than a human can see. And so a barn owl can pick out detail even though the light is poor and within the shadows. Wonderful eyesight, and so needful for a bird of prey. It's not something that it develops from generation to generation. Happy throw of the dice repeatedly being thrown, 6 coming up all the time, over and over again, and so the eyes improve and improve and improve until they get this good. The barn owl has to have eyes of this quality, this precision, right from the off. And so it was created according to God's design. The owl's low light vision is highly movement sensitive. Anything small that starts to move is instantly noticed by the owl. Picks it up straight away and reacts. We probably wouldn't see it at all, whereas an owl knows there's something there. Moving on now to the neck. You might be surprised that we're going to talk about the neck of a barn owl. Well, the neck of a human being, we just have 7 vertebrae. Barn owl has 14, twice as many. And this allows for maximum head rotation and a field view of 270 degrees when turning their head as far as it will go. And so an owl can be in the same position and yet swivel its head right round. So the neck is important, gives it a greater field of view. And I couldn't resist showing you this photograph. Why a barn owl would like to have its head in such a position, I don't know. But there you are. Such is the movability due to those 14 vertebrae. To prevent such contortions bursting blood vessels or cutting off the blood supply to the brain, the arteries in an owl's neck, which sit inside tubes within the hollow bones, are cushioned by air sacs. Other arteries at the base of the skull can dilate to store blood, so if the flow is interrupted lower down, there is a reserve to supply the brain. Wonderful arrangement, beautifully designed. It has to work straight way, and it does. So it's not just a case of the head being able to be moved around. This supply of blood to the brain has to be looked after, and so God has arranged everything perfectly. Barn owls are corpuscular, which means they can see well in poor light, dawn and particularly at dusk, but they can also see well in full sunlight. Now we're going to talk about flight. They have a very low wing loading, large wings supporting a lightweight body. So they're able to fly very slowly without stalling and hover in only the slightest lift, just a little bit of rising air. And so the wing loading is just right for very slow flight. And so they can hover and look down upon the prey. The wings' high curvature or camber means that each wing beat produces more lift. And so you can see that almost M shape in that picture by being able to bend those wings in such a way they can get that lift. In fact, a barn owl can take off almost vertically, designed to fly with this wonderful skill. On the other hand, the barn owl can fall upon the prey at 12 times its body weight, like a great lorry coming down hard upon that mouse or that vole that it's looking to take. So they have this great ability in flight to go slowly. They can rise almost vertically straight off, but then they come down. They can come down hard at great speed with great momentum. But the most precious thing to a barn owl, in regard to its flying, that it can do so silently. The legs are covered in feathers, and that cushions the sound. Their plumage is denser than most other birds, and this also helps absorb the sound. Now, most birds preen their feathers with oil, but not an owl. And so barn owls are not very waterproof. They need their feathers fluffy to actually deaden any noise. But they're not waterproof. And they don't fly, if they can help it, in the rain. They will fly in the rain, but only if they're desperately hungry. The primary feathers on an owl's wings are separated from each other and have a soft downy surface. A layer of tiny hairs also trap air within the feather surface, so they're linked up and yet they're separate, and those tiny hairs so crucial in cutting down the noise. The foremost wing feather, the 10th primary, has a row of tiny hooks like a fringe that help to deaden the sound of air hitting the wing's leading edge. There's a close-up where you can see that fringe. So again, it's about reducing the volume. And there's a whole world of mathematics when you start looking at those feathers and that fringe in particular. And man is only starting to realise these things and making use of them. And so man is starting to create similar serration on wings and on rotor blades. Ventilator companies design axial fans with serrate edging to try and reduce the noise of a fan, which otherwise might be some troublesome. So man starts now to create and copy that which God created perfectly right from the beginning. The trailing edges of the wing feathers are also soft and hair-like fringes there which damp down any turbulence created by the streams of air that meet behind the wing. So the wings are beautifully arranged. The feathers link up in a marvellous manner. So it can fly, but it can fly quietly. We now move on to hearing. And that beautiful heart-shaped facial disc, which makes the barn owl so attractive to us, it is so crucial. And it's made of stiff feathers, different type of feather altogether. These are stiff. And the idea is that they reflect any sound towards the ear opening, which are on the sides of the head, thus amplifying the overall signal. Just like a satellite dish, widely separated waves are concentrated into a point. The ear openings are situated inside the facial disc, just behind the eyes. And they are shaped differently. The right ear opening is usually larger. The ears are asymmetrical. One is level with the nostril and the other is higher, nearer the forehead. And these ears are covered with feathered flaps that close for loud noises and open for soft sounds. So if they're hunting by the side of a motorway, for instance, then by the use of those flaps, they can cut out the background noise of any vehicle or vehicles and concentrate and focus solely on their prey. The barn owl has the most sensitive hearing of any creature yet tested. This is God-given, God-designed, created in this way. It flies quietly, almost silently, and it can hear. It can hear exceedingly well. The ear on the left is slightly higher than the one on the right. Sound coming from directly below will be picked up by the right ear before the left ear, and thus the vertical difference will be accentuated. So there's a purpose in one ear being a different position to the other. This asymmetrical arrangement is not a bit of luck, but rather through design. It's said that a barn owl can actually hear a mouse's heartbeat in a 30-foot square room. A barn owl can tell by the frequencies whether a rustle or a squeak in the vegetation below is being made by a wood mouse or a bank vole. That's how sensitive the hearing is. They are able to locate and capture prey in total darkness using their hearing alone. So although they have good eyesight, they would still catch their prey, even effectively they were flying blind. Now these wonderful features of the bird speak to me of a creator. This has not come about by chance. This talks of design. This is a creature that's been planned out and put together by God. You may like to read Psalm 148, which is a wonderful song of celebration and of praise unto God for his creation. And within that psalm, you will see birds mentioned. And I like to think within that psalm, we can consider the wonder of a barn owl.